following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And here we are. It's time for another edition of Mick Shots, and eventually Mickey Spagnola will have his headset on and be ready for another week of Mick Shots. We do not have Everson Walls this week. Everson has called out this week, and we are here for the next hour to talk about...
He's on IR.
We do have, obviously we
and
do
you know,
have
I can
Chris
hear
Bean.
without my headsets on,
Yes,
too,
you
by
can.
the way.
Yes, you can. When are we going to open up the phone calls?
Anytime you want.
Anytime you want.
Anytime you want. You want to do it today?
888-855-2297.
That's funny because we haven't
You're
mentioned it over the course of how
year.
long? Or 2 years?
Maybe.
Ever since, well, for sure since March 13th, 2020, since the pandemic hit.
Well,
I
we
don't
have
think
so much to talk about.
We do, but I was like, you know what? This is just spur of the moment.
There might be some questions out there.
We ought to take some phone calls since we don't have Everson to fill up the airspace today.
Oh.
Here inside the SWBC podcast studio. It's March 31st. We're moving into April, and you know what April means.
the
The
draft.
Masters?
What's that, Chris B?
The Masters?
It means oh, yes, I've got it's green jackets and green notebooks.
Very
That's
good.
exactly right. Yep. And so the
Is it
2022 Big Green NFL
filling
Draft
up?
Scouting Notebook is filling up.
All right.
By the day, by the hour. And so it's about time we started talking draft over the next few weeks.
You
here.
got kickers in there?
There are kickers in there.
All right.
There's one from McKinney.
There is.
Uh-huh. He's from McKinney, and he went to LSU. That's who's
Oh.
going to get drafted.
I just read about him.
Cade York.
Cade York. Mm-hmm. He's kind of rated, I think, the top kicker. Mm-hmm. And the second top kicker is from
Dicker the kicker.
Dicker the kicker
From Texas?
You know what? I didn't see his name on a list. He did come out.
You know, he started his career strong at Texas.
Yeah.
He did not kick as well late in his career.
The guy from Alabama I saw was listed, and he was.
I haven't got that deep into
I
it.
forgot his name. He didn't kick that much, but
He
when
kicks
he
extra.
did,
You kick
he
extra
kicked well.
points at Alabama.
Yes, he was good at extra points. They didn't use him all that much, but I didn't realize Cade was from here.
He's from right here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. All right, we had.
And the only reason I said that is when Steven did his interview from the meetings and somebody asked him about needs in the draft, and the first thing he said was not needs, needs not just the draft, but things they still
Overall.
need to work on.
Yeah.
And the first thing that came out was kicker. And it's like, well, yeah, need a kicker.
Uh-huh.
And they really don't. And you know what? There's really not much out there. I did a little quick look, and the top three guys that were unrestricted free agents or considered: Michael Badgley. How do you say it?
Badgley.
Did I say it right? Chase McLaughlin and Matt Amendola.
He was just released by the Jets, who just
make
signed
room
Greg
for
Zuerlein.
Zuerlein,
Yeah, and
right,
they had Eddie Pinheiro. He's in a battle. Zuerlein will be in a battle there because
With Pinheiro?
He was a restricted free agent, and they went ahead and signed him. And so rather than him getting released out on the streets, and so he's now. I guess Zuerlein is probably the favorite. But
I'm sure
there
what
is
the
a kicking
Cowboys
battle.
want to do. I mean, they've got is it Nager, the guy that they did sign? It's a young kid. I don't think he's kicked before.
He hasn't kicked before.
I mean, in the NFL, I think he's kicked in one game.
This bodes well.
Let me
we
finish.
We signed a kicker who's never kicked before.
He doesn't have
That's
much
nice.
experience.
Yeah.
Nagar?
Chris Nagar.
He was from
I didn't write that down, but he was a street free agent pickup kicker.
So what they have to do.
Hunter, nice wonder.
Punter.
Punter.
They got a punter. They spent money on that.
Yes, they do.
They probably want to bring in a veteran, and then I would think at some point they draft one.
You got 4 fifth-round draft picks.
Would you take
is
one
that
there?
the sweet spot?
Would
I
you
think
take
it probably
one there?
is.
Would Cade York last that long?
I think when you look, in fact, the kicker for the Bengals this year, who was basically one of their best players, he was a fifth-round draft pick. He was a
the
rookie,
savior.
fifth-round draft pick. So that's kind of the sweet spot, unless you're Sebastian Janikowski, or
Right.
unless.
And that guy's coming out next year from Missouri, so the thicker kicker.
The thicker kicker.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's good.
He's real good. Distance,
How do you know?
I watch.
Okay. I didn't realize Missouri got into scoring position.
Ha, ha, ha. Unfortunately, too many times kicking field goals.
Chris Beam has alerted us that we actually have a phone call. Would you like to kick it off, so to speak, with a phone call?
Let's do something different.
All right.
Hold on a
Chris,
second.
I threw a curveball.
My server just reset from my
so
phone,
we
so I
need-
don't know if it hung them up or not. I got to turn around and look at this.
and-
Sorry.
It's
All right.
like if we're
Chris
gonna-
Beam, you let us know when you have that server.
And if you drop kicker and you're listening, if you drop caller and you're listening, call back again. But just make sure you're good,
That's right.
because we haven't done this in a while.
That's
Pressure's
right.
on.
That's right. All right.
Okay.
Owners' meetings in
Yes.
Florida this week.
They listened to me.
About?
Overtime.
Okay.
What did I say last week? Just play football?
That's what I say. Just play football.
And that's
But
what they decided.
I'll take it a step further for you.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll just throw this out there. All right. What's the biggest issue with overtime? Playing overtime.
The biggest issue.
The biggest issue has been the biggest.
Oh, what they worry about?
Yeah. Or what has been the biggest issue that both teams didn't get a chance with the ball. So
Right.
winning the coin flip was the biggest issue
Right.
of overtime.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
now they think they've solved that because both teams have an opportunity
Correct.
with the football. The thought occurred to me when and I agree, just play football. All right, how about just extending the game? Forget the coin flip. Forget resetting
Oh, no.
at the end of regulation.
I'm with you.
How about if it's a tie game,
Play football.
you're just playing. You don't stop. You treat the end of the fourth quarter like it's the end of the third quarter. You put another 10 minutes on the clock, and a team might have the football and they might be down in scoring position. The only negative is you don't have the aspect in a tie game of trying to beat the clock to kick that game-winning field goal, whatever. But the point is, you got to score anyway.
Right.
And so what difference does it make if you're trying to beat the clock on it? Okay, there's the reason why we have downs in football. There's still
How do they handle it in the NBA? They play a quarter, right?
Right.
It's
No,
not-
they play
Well,
4 minutes or
4
5
minutes,
minutes, or
5
whatever
minutes.
it is.
But
yeah.
they play basketball,
Right.
right? It's not sudden death.
Right.
They didn't yuck it up. What does the NHL do when they get to the playoffs? You know, it's sudden death, but it's not like
First one to score, but
there's no coin flip.
Both teams, because of the nature of those games, has a chance
Right.
with the ball.
You play hockey. What do they
Yeah.
do in soccer? They play 2 15-minute
Right.
overtimes right before they get to this goofy.
And you've got every opportunity to take the ball away from the
Right.
So
opponent.
you don't like
whatever.
sudden death, Mick?
Sudden death,
Without the all right,
but sudden death means
it becomes sudden death
a
whenever
coin flip.
But it also becomes sudden death if you just play on.
Right.
Right. And so you haven't taken away the aspect of sudden death. You just continue to play the game. And all aspects of the game are still in play this way, okay? If you're on defense at the end of the game, you got to stop them, okay? And you have no argument. We're just extending the game. So I don't understand why it hasn't even been brought up that just play like that and take the coin flip out of it.
Right.
Who cares?
And especially in the playoffs. Right?
Right.
Especially in the playoffs. Why do you have to get in a hurry to end the playoff game? Let them play football. Don't yuck it up. Don't come up with, well, you got to have a 2-point conversion. And that's not the way you play the game. Play the game normal. I mean, in hockey, I understand what they do in the regular season. It's a long season, 82 games, and they go 3-on-3. Okay, but in the
We go
playoffs,
7-on-7 in NFL.
yeah, but in the playoffs, it's they play hockey, right? It's sudden death. But you
go
play
7-on-7. You take the lineman.
Like
You take the lineman off the field.
Yeah,
well, they can't play more than 60 minutes. Those are big guys, and we don't want to tire them out.
And you
so
don't want to
let's just
run
play
the
7 on
football.
7.
Just 7-on-7. You just throw the ball, right?
Yeah. All right, Chris, you said we have a phone call?
I do. I have
right.
Kevin in Uniontown, Ohio.
Kevin in Uniontown, Ohio. You're the first caller in a couple of years on Mick Shots.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, a couple questions, and then I'll just let you guys go and you see what you guys say. Here's a couple of my theories. One, to me, this year, I know we had to clean up the cap, and that seems like that's what they're doing. Are they planning for more of a next year turnaround instead of a this year turnaround? Because I don't see them adding. Definitely, we're not as good as we were last year at this time, especially at certain positions. And Mick, do you see us signing an offensive tackle before the draft happens? I know that the pickings are getting small out there, but I can't see us going into the draft right now with that kind of need. What's your thoughts?
I think on the offensive tackle, they'll keep their eyes open for a veteran on a 1 or 2 year deal that doesn't cost a lot against the cap, that doesn't preclude drafting a guy and saying, okay, this guy's got to start. I think it's open for competition. And then the other thing I think you have to remember at offensive tackle is Terrence Steele right now, if they played tomorrow, is your starting right tackle. Now, who's the swing tackle? They're certainly hoping that Josh Ball is what they thought he was, drafting him in the 4th round. So you got to give him a chance, but I don't know that you could just rely on that. So I think at some point, and I think Stephen Jones talked about it, they still looking for, maybe it's an offensive lineman that's a guard tackle and can compete for the starting job. But I think that's where they are on that. And as far as for the turnaround, as you know, with Cowboy fans, there's no such thing as a turnaround, right? They're supposed to win the division. And if you look at the teams in the NFC East, aren't the Cowboys going to be favorite?
I agree with that.
Just because of the quarterback?
Is that good enough, though?
Well, I think that they're good enough to win the NFC East right now. I mean,
I was talking about. Sorry, Mick, to interrupt you, but I wasn't talking about us being. And I agree with you. I do believe that we're the best team on paper in the NFC East. But is that good enough for our head coach to keep his job?
Well, is it his fault?
I would say no, but you know how that flows down.
Yeah,
though.
I got you. I think they can be good enough, and you got to let the season play out, right? Because remember this thing, and I can't remember if Jerry pointed it out or Mike pointed it out. At this time last year, how good were they? They didn't have Micah Parsons at this time last year, right? Yeah,
well,
Jerry pointed out.
I agree with that totally, but we were definitely a lot stronger going as wide receiver group than we are today.
You know what? I love the opportunity. I love the word Mike McCarthy used, opportunity. There's a lot of opportunity on this team. I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but you got to play it out and see, what takes place. And yeah, I think wide receiver, and we talked about it last week. Remember, we kind of got into offensive lineman or wide receiver, and I was saying, well, I think the wide receiver is very important. And again, as Stephen pointed out, yeah, you go into the draft with what you want to do, and then what happens if a Lamb or a Parsons is sitting there? And all of a sudden your priorities change, right?
Well,
so we got a ways to go yet, I think.
And I agree with you, but that's why I'm kind of concerned. I don't want us not to bring in a guard, pick somebody out there in free agency and not go into this draft needing it something. I like the idea of us being able to draft what's the best player who's available on their board and not be compromised to have no choice but to pick up a guard or center if that's the route you want to go.
Yeah, and again, it has to be for a reasonable amount of money.
I know, because right now we have,
Very little
cash flow to do anything better.
Right. Absolutely. All right, Kevin, thanks a
All right.
lot. Way to start things off. All right.
Have a good day.
We're going to encourage
right.
us to take more phone calls.
All right, so our multiple phone lines are open for more phone calls.
Which, by the way, and I did this for Mick Shot on DallasCowboys.com for today. So you're going to be without, at wide receiver, right? You're without Mari Cooper, Cedric Wilson. Steven points out probably no Michael Gallup for the first 2 or 3 games.
Or 6.
Well, we'll see. And Malik Turner, I mean, he contributed, right? So I added up the catches of those 4 guys. 160. 63% of the wide receiver receptions is no longer here. Oh, counting Gallup for the season opener. Let's put it that way.
All right.
And then when it comes to touchdowns, those 4 guys combined for 19 touchdowns. That was 76% of the wide receiver touchdown receptions. That's what's missing right now.
So if the Cowboys were to play a game this Sunday, the wide receivers would be CeeDee Lamb, James Washington,
and Simi Fehoko.
or Noah Brown.
Those 2
So
guys.
those are your
figured out.
4 guys, basically.
Right. And, Mike McCarthy was somewhat impressed with James Washington, and he said, talking.
I hope he was more than somewhat impressed.
Well, said talking to the people in Pittsburgh, they thought he just needed a fresh start. And he also pointed out that when he came out in the draft, it was a second-round pick from Pittsburgh, that the Cowboys had a high grade on him coming out of Oklahoma State. So it'll be interesting to see, what he can do if he gets. I mean, he's going to get a chance, right? This is his opportunity. It's a 1-year deal. And, if he likes playing NFL football 2 hours from his ranch or 1 hour from his ranch, however, I guess it's a couple hours because it's just west of Abilene, then, this is his time. He's going to get the opportunity.
So you like playing football or baling hay?
Yeah, right?
Which does he like better?
Who was the offensive lineman that quit on the Cowboys back in the 80s, late 80s or early 90s? And he was going to go work in his father's roofing business. Changed his mind real quick after he got up on that roof with 100 degrees.
And when he got his paycheck.
Yeah, right. Oh, you're just helping out the family.
Okay, so
but anyway,
to Kevin's point, though, about is this team better now than it was a year ago at this time? The caller says no. Jerry said he likes where this team is now compared to a year ago at this time. What do you think?
Well, I think a year ago at this time they were better off, right? But, they did add. But no, we didn't know about the defense, and I don't know if the defense got better or not. They hold their own. They are counting on young guys to step up. Now, is that the answer? Because you can't cover all your holes in the draft, right? You only got one first round.
And see, that's the thing, and what Kevin would point out too. He would like to, and everyone would like for them to fill those holes where you're not having to draft for need in the draft. And that's been what the Cowboys' practice has been in free agency, where you sign enough of veteran guys where you can go play. What you will quickly point out is that Connor McGovern has started games before. You can go play with Connor McGovern at left guard.
And it's time, right? This is his 4th year. Sit or whatever, out the door. I mean, you can't use he was a 3rd-round pick, right? 3rd-round pick, 4th year. You got to be more than a part-time fullback, part-time blocking tight end, right?
And there's the other thing about that is there will be interior offensive linemen who are still out there who can come in and start for you after the draft.
Right.
Okay. The money's dried up right now. Okay. And so everybody's signing right now are signing veteran minimum deals. It doesn't do those veterans any good to go ahead and sign now. They might as well at this point because all they're getting is a veteran minimum deal. They're going to get that same veteran minimum deal whether they sign in May or March.
Right. At
this point. Now, if you've got some starting experience in this league as a veteran offensive guard or center, you might as well wait. We've seen before where in OTAs a guy will tear an ACL or whatever, and their needs will arise. And also, from the standpoint, there are teams like the Cowboys who are looking at, okay, yeah, we might draft a starting offensive guard with the 24th pick in the first round. But if Micah Parsons is sitting there or CeeDee Lamb is sitting there and we don't get that Kenyon Green from Texas A&M in the first round, all right, now we'll go sign that veteran that's on the street still, who has starting experience and who actually will be better equipped to play better snaps for you this year than a rookie would coming in.
And that's was the logic of signing Dante Fowler Jr., right? Okay, let's bring in a veteran guy at defensive end just in case, right? And then we'll see what comes up in the draft. So they kind of filled in there. They fill in with Malik Hooker at safety. It's only a one-year deal, right?
It's 2 years.
2 years.
2 years, $8 million.
That's right.
Yeah. But they filled in with him last year, signing him during the season, and he proved himself, and he's back from his injury, and they felt good enough about him that they signed him to a 2-year deal, just like they did with Curse. Curse was a guy who was a fill-in, and he turned out to be their leading tackler on the team last year.
I think the biggest disappointment, I mean, look, what they did on the offensive line, they did it of their own volition, right? They decided at right tackle that Terrence Steele could step in for La'el Collins at far less money than Collins' $10 million base salary, right? And Jerry pointed it out. He said, that's fine to have guys that make that much money, but you got to play to that level. And I got a feeling they don't think La'el Collins played at that level. Mm-hmm. That's why they let him go. They didn't have to do that. They did it on their own volition.
That's right, because the salary cap savings was not there in that case with La'el Collins.
And the same thing with Cooper.
And I also think with Collins, they're probably concerned with his hip situation that has flared up here in the last couple of years.
And they made the decision to let Cooper go. They could have figured it out, but they decided, no, we're going to move forward. And I saw where they got criticized for only getting a fifth, right? But here's the deal. Number one, teams knew that if the Cowboys didn't trade him, they were going to cut him. So they're not going to give you a bunch of money. I mean, a bunch of draft picks. I mean, he's not Tyreek Hill, right?
There was a deadline on that, too.
Yes,
that roster bonus, the fifth day of the new year.
And the other thing is the team that trades for him has to inherit that $20 million base salary. So now it's like, okay, I'm taking them on, but I'm not paying you a whole bunch of money.
It's the same thing that Cleveland's going through right now with Baker Mayfield.
Right.
There are teams that would take Baker Mayfield on, but they're not. He has a guaranteed $18 million salary this year because they picked up the fifth-year option, and so Cleveland is on the hook for that right now.
Right.
And there's no team in their right mind right now because there's no vacancy at the quarterback in the league right now. There's no team that's going to take on that $18 million for Baker Mayfield.
It's guaranteed.
Yeah, it's guaranteed. Fifth-year option is guaranteed.
Cleveland's got themselves.
That's right. The only way
big heap of trouble.
That's right. And
so if I'm trading for him, I'm starting with, okay, I'll give you a seventh.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do? You want to absorb that contract and the new contract that you just promised and guaranteed till eternity?
All right. Carlton in Baton Rouge is on the line, but we're up against a break. So, Carlton, we're going to come back and take your call right out of the chute when we come back here on Mick Shots.
Brace yourself for an existential question. Has your butt been having enough fun lately? Have you been treating it well? Has it been going places? If not, then it's about time you start using SeatGeek. SeatGeek is the best way to get your butt tickets to live events. Just ask the thousands of other butts who have rated it the #1 ticketing app. So what are you waiting for? Download the app now or visit SeatGeek.com to get tickets to sports, concerts, and live events and make your butt happy. SeatGeek. Get your seat in a seat.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Starter, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The starter includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized intense therapy lip balm. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word TEAMJB. That's getjackblack.com/Cowboys. The Jack Black Starter, $10, free shipping.
The Cowboys way, where 16 Hall of Famers and 5 championships shows us what success looks like. Where turkey is always the second best part of Thanksgiving Day. Where we are all defined by one single thing, the star. Where we as fans know it's our job to keep the tradition going. Bank of America is proud to be the official bank of the Dallas Cowboys and to support the quest of living life the Cowboys way. Copyright 2020, Bank of America Corporation.
At AT&T, everyone, new and existing customers, get our best deals on every smartphone. Why? Because you deserve it. For turning your living room into your office and your gym. For teaching Grandma how to video call. And teaching her again.
It's the button on your left, Nana. Okay, your other left.
It's not complicated. Everyone deserves something new. So AT&T is giving everyone, new and existing customers, our best deals with every unlimited plan on every smartphone, even the latest ones.
AT&T may temporarily slow data speeds if the network is busy. Restrictions and exceptions may apply.
Back to Mick Shots.
K-Post Roofing and Waterproofing, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys. From corporate homes to your home. Have your roof checked by choice, not by chance. Call now, 214-225-4860, kpostcompany.com.
All right, let's go to Carlton in Baton Rouge. You are next up on Mick Shots. Hello, Carlton.
Hello, Miss Bill.
Hello.
And Mickey.
How you doing?
How are y'all doing?
Good.
Right.
Well, I was just thinking, I heard a couple of guys on all y'all podcasts saying Joe Looney's all the time around the star. If you could talk him out of retirement, you got a guard and center. And then what about us drafting a running back?
I think something would have to jump out at them on the third day of the draft.
On a running back.
A running back. Mm-hmm. And I think they like those young guys that they still have rights to.
It's a deep running back class,
right?
And in fact, I think across the board, this is a deeper draft than, and this is without filling up my green notebook entirely, but just by its nature, it's going to be a deeper draft than what it was for sure last year and in a normal year, and it's because of the pandemic.
So
you've got a lot more people in the draft this year, and you had a lot fewer people in the draft last year.
I think Mike pointed out, and these were numbers from Will McClay, that like a normal year, they would have draftable grades on 150 to 160 players, and this year they have draftable grades on 220 to 230 players because of the pandemic. More guys return to college. So
just use those numbers, 150 on a normal year?
I think he said 150 to 160.
Okay,
yeah.
Let's say 160.
Okay.
And then this year they have
220.
That's 2 rounds.
Yeah.
So basically, instead of it being in a normal year, it's a 7-round draft, they view it as a 9-round draft. And understand that every team has the same number of draftable grades. Well, they are the reason that you get to 250 that are drafted, and everyone says, "Oh, yeah, we had a draftable grade on that guy," is because they're not the same 160 players that everybody has a draftable grade on.
Right.
So anyway, so basically, you can look at it that a 4th-round pick this year, you're more likely going to have a 3rd-round grade on them than in a normal year.
Yeah. Because think about it.
And those 4 fifth-round picks, they probably, in that room down the hallway, they probably look at those 4 fifth-round picks as guys that they will have third or fourth-round draft picks on.
Yeah, because think about it. 32 teams times 7 rounds. That's like 220, 25, somewhere in there. 222, 24. And now you've got draftable grades on 220 of them. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, this draft is going to be stocked with more players just when and McCarthy said it. He goes, the big thing in this draft is bigger numbers of people that are available. So
and that likely has impacted not only the Cowboys but other teams as far as what they're doing here in free agency. There's a lot of guys who aren't in that first wave of free agency and even the second wave of free agency that are sitting out there on the street. They're not getting the offers that they want, or they're taking the offers because they're afraid they won't have a seat at the table when when the music stops. So they're taking less money as a veteran guy because teams aren't offering more because they feel like that they can fill needs in the draft more so this year than in a normal year.
No, Stephen had an interesting comment, and we kind of debated it last week. Offensive lineman or defensive end. And as I was kind of perusing some of the draft lists, it seemed like there was a proliferation of defensive ends, that there was a bunch that had first-round grades. And when somebody asked him about the offensive lineman, where does that? And he goes, you know what? He goes, the way they play college football, it's really hard to project offensive linemen these days. So when everybody gets all excited about taking a tackle in the first round, it's like, okay, is he ready to play in the NFL? And over recent years, I think we've seen a lot of busts with those offensive tackles because this isn't college football. And in college football, basically all they're doing is pass blocking. And there's not much run blocking going on. And so that gave me pause about, taking a offensive lineman high in the draft. Yeah, if all things were equal, could they use and again, I'll say it, a tackle who can play guard. Because usually if you take a guard, that means he can't play tackle. And so at 24, you would consider it, or you trade down, but your percentage of hitting on offensive linemen high in the draft these days is not as good as it used to be. But with the amount of defensive ends available, by the time they get to 24, there might be one available that you can say, okay, this guy can turn things around. So I just thought that was interesting when he made that comment about offensive linemen.
And when it comes to wide receiver, we've talked about the need that the Cowboys have at wide receiver. It's obvious. And man, I look at the wide receivers in this draft, and there are some who think that there could be 7, 8 wide receivers go in the first round. I mean, it was a really good wide receiver draft last year with the top 3 guys, and they all came through in their rookie year and played well. Okay, and I think anymore that there was a time 10, 15 years ago that there was a transition period that wide receivers had to go through in the league. Now I think the guys can step in and play. And so I think when you're looking at some of these teams like the Cowboys with Cooper, like the Packers with Adams, like the Chiefs with Tyreek Hill, they look at the wide receivers in this draft and they think we may not get a Devontae Adams, we may not get a Tyreek Hill or Amari Cooper, but we can get a guy who can come in and take a lot of targets and catch a lot of balls his rookie year.
And, there's a couple guys coming out off of injuries, right? Mm-hmm. Alabama.
Jamison Williams.
Williams.
Yep.
he's not going to be ready in the offseason, right? Would you use a first round on him? Maybe you get him in the second, and we know the Cowboys have been known.
There's another Alabama guy, Mechie, that also got hurt, and
right.
He I think his was in a November injury, and so may be ready in the summertime.
There was another wide receiver escaping my mind that was possibly an injury guy that would have gone high, top 10, 15, that, he tore his ACL.
And that's the thing. With Gallup's ACL and the surgery occurring in February, you need that rookie to be able to come in and contribute right away.
Right. So to me, you wouldn't take a guy like that not knowing that he could be ready to play. They did it with Sean Lee, right? Second round.
And here again, at wide receiver, we talked about it with the offensive guard. Cowboys see what they get in the draft as far as wide receiver. And there's going to be receivers out there, veteran guys out there, who, again, would be able to contribute more at the beginning of the season than a rookie would be that you draft.
Correct. And again, and after the draft, you never know who gets released after I took this guy with my 10th pick. Well, he's going to start.
I think that's the danger in the draft is you want, when you're drafting players, you're drafting these players for, if it's a first-round pick, you're drafting them for 5 years because you have his rights for 5 years. Any other player, you're drafting them for 4 years. It's not just about your needs this year. It's how are you set at that position going forward. And that's why when the Cowboys make a decision on Amari Cooper and where he was in his contract right now, and with the depth of the wide receiver class and also what you have on your roster, your inventory at wide receiver, where CeeDee Lamb is now 2 years away from getting big money. Michael Gallup, this year you paid big money to. You have to change it over. You have to roll it over in the wide receiver room, and that just happens to be a position now where there's a lot more prospects out there, and so you can fill the need as opposed to quarterback. Quarterback, there aren't. I mean, proven quarterbacks that are coming around every year. It's a crapshoot a lot of times as far as quarterback goes. You have to have a high draft pick usually to get one.
And by the way, I believe it was McCarthy brought this up, although Jerry touched on it. Your quarterback, by the way, is going to go through a normal offseason, right? He didn't get a chance to work that much. He didn't throw that much last year to all these guys coming back from his injury. So he'll have a normal OTAs. He'll have a normal mini camp. They don't have to hold him back. And he'll have a chance to work with these wide receivers, even, the young ones, more so than he was able to last year. So that, too, can make somewhat of a difference on his preparation.
All right. There was news made around the National Football League, more specifically in Tampa last night. We get into that when we come back here in just a moment. And more of your phone calls when Mick Shots continues in a moment.
Before there was a draft, you could size up a cowboy by 3 simple factors: the crease in his hat, the bend of his brim, and his unbending attitude. A man's Stetson didn't just protect him from what life threw at him, it projected a rugged, unstoppable spirit. Stetson hats are still American-made with pride right here in Texas. They're still the unofficial crown of all self-respecting cowboys, and Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find a retailer nearest you at stetson.com/cowboys.
Hi, I'm Clint Tillison with...
And I'm Jay Novacek, and we're both with...
United Ag and Turf, the official tractor provider of the Dallas Cowboys.
So, if you need a tractor to bale some hay, a mower to cut some grass, or a gator to get some chores done...
Get a John Deere at United Ag and Turf.
And then, let's get to work.
Hey, Jay, that's my line.
Well, not today.
Get to work with a John Deere tractor package that's just right for you and your budget. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com.
There's nothing as unique as our eyes, which is why Essilor pioneers ways to make lenses as unique as you. Verilux for super sharp vision, Essential Blue for protection, and Crizal for freedom from glare. 3 cutting-edge solutions in a single unique lens. So whatever your needs, insist on Essilor. Visit your local Essilor experts and find the perfect lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
New Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. You deserve it.
I do deserve that.
You deserve decadent flavor without sugar. And a day at the beach without sand getting everywhere. And a relaxing bath that your children don't interrupt.
I deserve all that?
It's really just a visual metaphor for Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. Everything you want, nothing you don't.
A visual metaphor on the radio. I do deserve that.
Dr. Pepper Zero Sugar. The zero you deserve is finally here.
Back to Mick Shots.
Whether you're watching from home or cheering in the stands, with Essilor lenses, you'll see every exciting play. Book an appointment at your local Essilor experts and find the perfect Essilor lens for you. See more, do more, Essilor.
Do you have a prediction on who the Cowboys might be playing in the preseason this year?
I hadn't even thought about it yet.
Well, with the report coming out yesterday that the Cowboys and Chargers might be practicing, so I'm thinking that there may be a preseason game in the Chargers Stadium in L.A.
Could be the away game, right? Because they get 2 home games.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wait. Which was it last year?
2 away.
2 away this year.
Yeah, because we have an extra home game this year. So
that's right. So 2 away.
2 away, 1 home.
That's right. It's 3 preseason games.
Yeah.
So
yep.
So 1 in. Well, they just camp out in L.A., right?
So, and I can't remember what did we do with Houston.
Well, we had two home games and 1 away last year.
Was Houston was one of them?
Yes.
Yes.
So we're going
Jaguars.
to Houston. So the other away game's Houston.
Probably.
So break camp, go to Houston, and come home.
Mm-hmm.
And play somebody.
Play somebody at home.
Who do you want to play?
At home. Somebody that's not on the schedule.
Kansas City's not on the schedule, right?
Okay, bring
let's go Kansas City. Okay.
And then let's go.
So we just made the schedule.
And we're going to play at Jacksonville in London.
Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please. That's not official, folks.
It's been 8 years.
Yeah, it's not official.
Are you making that announcement, Mickey?
No, I'm not.
It's been 8 years since Joseph Randall played
2014
for the Cowboys against Jacksonville in London. Wow.
And they've got to play, and they get
8 years since they made that Rex Burkhead mistake in the draft.
Right.
And Des Bryant had the best single quarter in NFL history.
It's actually been 9 years since that 2013.
Who almost missed the bus to go to London, by the way.
Yeah, you're right. We sat outside Valley Ranch for a while.
He showed up right, like if we were supposed to leave at 4 o'clock, he showed up at 3:57 and still had to go through security.
Des time.
That's why when
I remember that. I was
matter of
camped out outside the Valley Ranch. We were getting video. I was doing a live shot, and we were getting video of the team departing.
One to come through.
Mm-hmm. I do remember that.
And so here's what happened. This was funny. So the first day we're there, I plugged my computer in, and it shot the charger. I had no charger for my laptop.
Oh,
right?
my.
So I had to go down where the Cowboys were operating, and it was kind of in a hallway a couple floors below us, and find somebody that had a charger that fit my laptop so I can steal some juice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we were supposed to leave at 11:30 to go to the practice. And so I'm down there, and I was going to wait to the last minute to charge my laptop. And I get a call. I think it was from Brian. They're on the bus, and it's like 11:23. And he goes, "Hey, the bus is getting ready to leave." I said, "What time is it supposed to leave?" He said, 11:30. I said, "I still got 7 minutes." and I said, as Jason Garrett comes walking by, "I'm on Des Bryant time. 11:30 means 11:30. And he busted out laughing. But yeah, it's time to go back. They get next 3 years. They're playing.
Now there's a game in Mexico City, and you got one of the German cities. I can't remember
and
which
another
one, Frankfurt or Berlin.
Another one in London at Tottenham, I think.
Oh yeah, Hotspur.
Yeah.
Jacksonville's playing at the big stadium.
Yeah, they're
Wembley.
playing at Wembley.
Okay.
So let's go.
But you want to go Tottenham?
No, I want to go.
You're going Wembley. You're going Wembley. The Jacksonville
You
game.
can't go Tottenham. You don't have them on the schedule this year.
They're not on the schedule.
All right. So Tom Brady retired on February 1st. 40 days later, he came out of retirement, and then on March 30th, Bruce Arians says, I'm out of here. Well, I'm going upstairs to the front office, and Todd Bowles is now the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Former Cowboys defensive backs coach.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he spent several years here with Bill Parcells.
That's right. Yep. So what do you think?
That was surprising because we kept hearing maybe Arians and Tom Brady weren't like seeing eye to eye, and then he ends up coming back and he ends up getting kicked upstairs.
And Bruce Arians, by the way, is conducting a press conference right now.
69 going on 70.
Okay, if I can read it. It's very small
do I need
print
to read it for
that
you?
Chris Beam just sent me. Arians. All right, here's the quote. It's long. I may not give you all of it. Succession has always been huge for me. With the organization in probably the best shape it's been in its history, with Tom Brady coming back, I'd rather see Todd Bowles in position to be successful and not have to take some bad job.
Ooh.
Or crappy job is in parentheses. He said something else, not crappy.
He probably said
I'm probably retiring next year anyway in February, so I control the narrative right now. I don't control it next February because if Brady gets hurt, we go 10-7, and it's an open interview for the job. I got 31 coaches and their families that depend on me. My wife is big on not letting all those families down. So there you go.
That's pretty good.
You know, that is also when Bob Stoops stepped down at Oklahoma.
Right.
That's why he did it.
Right, to save
the and there are other coaches that have done that too. It was when Stoops stepped down, it was in June.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not hiring a new staff then, and everything's in place. Everything was in place for Lincoln Riley and the entire staff. And you know that, and obviously Arians has a track record with Todd Bowles, not only in Tampa, but he was his defensive coordinator with the Arizona Cardinals. He has very strong feelings for Bowles, and so he wanted to put him in a position. And he's not leaving the organization; he's going upstairs in the front office, and so he's still there, and who knows? He is 69 years old, and
turning 70 this year.
So it makes a lot of sense from that standpoint.
Maybe we can do that when we get old, right? Kick us upstairs.
When we get old. When we get old. Bruce Arians, though, his career, obviously he didn't become a head coach until an NFL head coach until very late in his career. He was an interim coach with the Colts, and then got the full-time head coaching job with the Arizona Cardinals less than 10 years ago now. But you go back and look at his history, he was on Bear Bryant's staff at Alabama.
Was he really?
That's how far back. He was a running backs coach at Alabama in 1981-82, Bear Bryant's last year as the Alabama head coach. And so Arians was 29 years old then, and he got the Temple head coaching job the next year. At the age of 30, for 5 or 6 years, he was the head coach at Temple, and really did not. He went to Kansas City shortly after that under Marty Schottenheimer, but he was a college coach for years, and then went over the decade of the 90s, went back and forth between college and the NFL, and then settled in the NFL around 2000.
You want a nugget about? It was 82, Bear Bryant's last game. I've got a certificate.
Is that the Cotton Bowl?
It was at the Liberty Bowl.
The Liberty Bowl. Okay.
And
the year before he was at the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, I covered that game.
I covered him at the Cotton Bowl in '81. Yeah.
So '82, and they beat the snot out of Illinois. Eason was the quarterback.
Okay.
They couldn't protect him, and I remember it was cold. The post game interview, they didn't have a room, so he stood on some crate like Jimmy used to do at training camp, and it's freezing out. And I looked at him, and I was like, God, he's freezing. He looks old, right? And I'll be darned if, like a month later, he passed away.
That's right. I mean, it was like in February.
It was. I can tell you when it was because it was January, like 27th or 28th. No, 26th. Because it got in the way.
It was January 26, 1983.
Yes.
At age 69, same age as Bruce Arians
And we ended up going to Tuscaloosa because I was working in Jackson then, Mississippi, and we went to Tuscaloosa to cover the funeral. So anyway, I digressed.
No, okay, I was just looking up. With him, it was a month later. Okay, it was like I remember thinking at the time, okay, this guy, he coaches all his life, and then he didn't have coaching,
right. So I could remember. I can't remember if it was that year or the year before. We went to Tuscaloosa. They were playing Ole Miss. They're going to play Ole Miss. So in the middle of the week, we went there for his press conference, and I finally got up enough nerve to ask him a question, and he didn't like the question. And his southern drawl went up 10 times, right? I have no idea what he said to answer me, right? Because he didn't want to answer it. And it was like, okay, I get it, right? Because he answered all the other questions, I could understand him. But when he answered mine, had no clue what he said.
I was looking it up. Joe Paterno is very similar. All right, Bear Bryant, okay, he passed away with less than a month after his last game that he coached. And Joe Paterno, age 85, January 22nd, 2012. He coached through the 2011 season at Penn State.
And then that was it.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, on the Cowboys, in fact, we're getting ready to tape the Blitz, which you'll see in Dallas-Fort Worth on CBS 11 at 11 o'clock on Sunday night, and also here on DallasCowboys.com. Mickey is filling in for Kyle Yeomans on the Blitz this week. So one of the things we're going to talk about, let's rehearse it right here.
Okay.
One of the things we're going to talk about, offensive line need versus defensive line need. Okay, which is more needy?
We kind of touched on that a little bit, talking about what Stephen Jones said about comparing defensive ends in this draft to offensive linemen. To me, for a first-round pick and the money that you spend, I think you get more bang for your buck with a defensive end than you do with an interior offensive lineman or a tackle that late in the draft, because there's going to be a bunch taken before that. I can get that in the second round. I think second-round defensive ends drop off considerably compared to the guys that go in the first round.
Okay. We're also talking about offensive guard versus defensive. How about we make, okay, you're comparing a guy who can be an offensive tackle, even if he's not right now, but you're looking at over the next 5 years, he'll play offensive tackle for you versus an edge rusher. Right. All right. What about the need offensive guard versus a defensive tackle? How do you look at that?
I probably, knowing what they have at tackle right now, I could play with those guys. Unless one of those big slobber knockers from Georgia is available that can't get moved off the line of scrimmage, especially.
And we're talking not so much, although they may take a guard in the first round,
right? Or
you're talking more second, third round.
I could see them doing that, and you can hit on guards there, right? It's a guard.
Because you look at the Cowboys, the defensive tackle position. And with the drafting of Osa Odigizua last year, you got him for 3 more years. Neville Gallimore, you've got him for 2 more years. Okay, And obviously, on offense at guard, McGovern you only have him one more year. And then say what you want about. We feel good about Gallimore and Odigizua.
Yes, and you got Wilson that you brought in back, right?
You mean Carlos
Watkins. I said Wilson. Sorry.
And he's on a 1-year deal. And you got Tristan Hill. Who's in the last year of his
4-year deal. Right. So, to me, if you're looking to replace...
You also have Bohanna as a nose.
Right. Randy Gregory. I mean... And here, that was another thing that came up in all this stuff. With McCarthy, when he did his deal, he got asked about Micah Parsons, and he basically said Micah Parsons is a linebacker. He can move around, and he pointed out that of his 13 sacks, 7 came from the linebacker spot, 6 came from lining up as a true defensive end. And he said that as an offensive guy, you are doing me a favor if you line up Micah Parsons down in and down out at defensive end, because I now know where he's going to be. If he lines up at linebacker, we have the ability to move him around, and you don't know where he's always going to be. So to Mike McCarthy, he's a linebacker. He's not taking over a defensive end position. So just to clear that up, because I think there was a lot of people, well, he got 13
Which still
sacks.
may mean he'll have 15 sacks.
Right.
But
And it maybe, 7 or 8 are still at defensive end when they move him around, but you just don't know. Because the other thing, if you think about what they did towards the end of the year, when they were in a 4-2, whatever, they would line him up like a strong side linebacker on the line of scrimmage next to DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, pick your poison.
Mm-hmm.
Which one are you going to block?
Here's the other thing. Linebackers can play 3 downs.
Right.
Okay? You get 3. You hope you get a linebacker who can be a 3-down linebacker. Usually defensive ends, although DeMarcus Lawrence, he'll play his heart out for you for 60 snaps a game, but he's not. You can't ask him to play 80 snaps, okay? And usually he's going to be in the 50 snap to get the most effectiveness out of an edge rusher. He's probably on the field max 50 snaps out of 70, 75 in a game. Micah Parsons can be on the field more if you're playing him at linebacker.
And think about this. So Parsons, once he started playing predominantly linebacker towards the end of the season, so like Kansas City played 88% of the snaps, next game 88.5, next game 92.9, next game it was Washington and it was over after 3 quarters, 79%. The Giants, 88%, and then they pulled back that second Giants game. He only played 55 snaps. So
you got Lawrence there?
I just shut it. Yeah. So Lawrence.
New Orleans was first game, wasn't it?
New Orleans was the first game. He played 52.9%.
So half the snaps.
And then 69, 63, 41, 65, and 39-2, and that was the last game that didn't matter. So
you're looking at max 60% of the snaps for a defensive end.
Right. And you could always move them. You could put them at defensive end every now and then.
But it also
just don't tip it off.
But also you want to be in a position where you've got quality linebackers. Like if you want to play him on a certain where you've got a base defense out there of basically a 4-3,
right?
Whatever, where you got Leighton Vander Esch and Jabril Cox on the field at the same time with Micah Parsons, where they can play linebacker while he's lining up as an edge rusher, and you're not tipping your hand what you're doing. Or, still you got that Keanu Neal spot in the nickel where which Jabril Cox can play that, where you can be in a nickel and he can still be an edge rusher, and you got 2 linebackers on the field to be able to stop the run.
Which would be an interesting scenario if they get to 24 and a linebacker or two is available, would you do it? Leighton Vander Esch on a 1-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
You're hoping Jabril Cox comes back to be the guy they thought he was after his ACL.
Hey, there's how much talk has there been out there? Oh, you got to go sign Bobby Wagner.
Yeah.
Why? That tells you that there are a lot of fans out there who believe they need a linebacker.
Yeah, or just because it's Bobby Wagner, but
if you get a first-round rookie Bobby Wagner,
yeah, and save he would only cost you against the cap the first year probably $1.5 million, $2 million instead of 11 that it looks like Wagner's looking for, and one of the reasons why. I think Stephen Jones put it out that sounded like they moved on from that. Then that's another consideration. And that linebacker from Georgia, you got him in the
Nakobe?
Yes,
Nakobe Dean.
I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. Plus he checks the boxes in character as well.
Yeah.
So
those things that will come up, but. Having Parsons is important. And the other point I was going to make, I know we're running out of time, the Cowboys, when they basically, Randy Gregory goes to Denver. Now, a lot of people thought, well, he averaged $14 million a year. They got all that money to play against the cap. Well, his first year cap charge in Denver, and it was basically the same contract the Cowboys had, was only $6 million. So Jerry looked at it as, okay, we didn't get that $6 million, but we took that money and got 3 players. Got Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, and Leighton Vander Esch. And I looked it up, and those guys' combined cap hit for this year is $8.2 million. So the $6 million they had for Gregory, they ended up with 3 players. And that was his choice. Although I just saw he's having rotator cuff surgery.
Gregory is?
I just heard it this morning when I was driving in. And it evidently came up after he signed the contract or whatever. They must have known.
Well, when you're signing a contract like that, I can certainly understand how you might injure a rotator cuff. I mean, that's a lot of heavy lifting on that.
That's true.
Yeah. So.
So anyway, he's headed to surgery, but they qualified it as we got a 3-for-1. Now, is the talent the same? I don't know if those guys will combine for 30-some quarterback pressures, but he only had but 6 sacks, right? Armstrong had 5 and considerably less snaps. So.
And 16 sacks over the first 7 years of his career or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right.
Availability.
That's right. That's very important. Okay. That does it for this edition of Mick Shots. We're going to go tape the blitz. You'll see that on DallasCowboys.com, and we will see you again next week here on Mick Shots.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys?